But what of Mrs. Gandhi herself in her last days, as they were to be? She spent Monday and Tuesday on a crowded schedule away from the capital, Delhi. She said it wasn't an election tour, but hundreds of thousands turned out to see her in the state of Orissa as she met public officials, members of the military, and above all, the ordinary people in the villages. Travelling with her throughout was a Lebanese journalist, Baria Alamuddin, who was doing a series of interviews with the Prime Minister. She arrived back this morning only to be told that Mrs. Gandhi had been assassinated. Ian Smith has been speaking to her.
How did Mrs. Gandhi spend the last 2 days of her life?
Well, she spent it mainly in helicopters, really. We took the plane from Delhi, her 737, and then we went to Orissa state, and then we landed in Bhavanchavan, which is the capital of that state. And then it was very brief. She just met some officials, and then we took the helicopter and went into different parts of that state.
How was she received by the people?
Oh, very warmly. Obviously, they loved her very, very dearly. Actually, I still have the noise of the people, you know, the voice saying Indira Gandhi, Zindabad, Indira Gandhi. You know, it went on and on and on.
Did you ever talk to her about destiny and what it might hold for her?
Yes, yes, we did. Because that brought it, you know, when we were discussing courage, and I said, do you believe in destiny? Then this is why you don't feel that you need all that protection. And she said, no, I don't believe in destiny. It is just that I've lived in danger all my life, and it doesn't matter if I die now.
I mean, I'm not afraid of death or being killed or anything like that, because, you know, I've always had to live in the midst of danger. I mean, I've worked so hard and all my life that it doesn't matter what happens now. I mean, I think I've done my best.
What was Mrs. Gandhi's own mood like?
Very happy. She just seemed to be herself. You know, actually, I asked her, I said, what do you do to unwind? And she said, I don't need to unwind. I'm myself. And she really was relaxed.
And when she met the crowd, she actually went into the crowds herself, did she?
Yes, you see, not inside, because everywhere we went for these functions, there was, you know, a jeep ready for her, and she wanted to go around and see everybody because there were masses and masses of people. So she drove into the jeep and she threw the flowers that were given to her on the people, and she touched some of them, you know, said hello to them or stopped and talked to them, and but there was no problem with security as such. One didn't feel it existed at all.
Did she talk about her son Rajiv as maybe a potential successor to her?
Well, actually, I asked her and I said, aren't you scared that Rajiv is going to run for, you know, to be in politics? And she's scared for his security. And she said, you know, I never pushed my children into anything. It was Rajiv who chose to come into politics. In fact, his wife and children and everybody didn't want him to come into politics. Maybe he didn't choose politics at the early stages of his life. But the very fact that Rajiv lived in a Gandhi house and he was there and he saw the atmosphere, he lived in that same atmosphere like I did, and he met all those statesmen, was very much aware of all the problems. I think maybe that pushed him very much, and I think she thought that he had the same mind like her. He had a love for details.
Gandhi died. In fact, she was the last journalist to talk to her. She's Baria Alamuddin from the Lebanese magazine Al Hawadas. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Britain. You're still wearing the bangle of flowers that Mrs. Gandhi gave you.
Yes, actually it was a necklace, but you know, it got shorter all the time and it became a bracelet.
Now, you were with her throughout Monday, throughout Tuesday, and when you got on the plane, you knew nothing about the assassination. The first you heard about it, presumably, was when you landed at Heathrow.
Yes, that's absolutely right. You see, we landed at New Delhi after this trip to Orissa, state of Orissa, and I went to the hotel. I actually was going to see her at her house after we landed to collect some private pictures she was going to give me. But then the shortage of time, I just collected them through a friend and rushed to the airport to get the plane here. I was absolutely shattered and shocked when I heard the news. She was a very remarkable woman.
Now, as I say, you spent 2 full days with her. What sort of things were you talking about?
You know, with Mrs. Gandhi, you felt you could talk about anything and everything. I felt we had really built a friendship in 2 days. We talked about politics, women, religion, her children, her father. make up anything. We just talked about anything. We spent a lot of time together. So that gave me the chance to really know her.
It sounds as though you liked her.
Very much. I was really impressed. I felt she was a woman of courage, of honesty. She was the sort of person you could look through and see everything. She didn't have double-faced, you know, she wasn't double-faced at all. And she felt, you know, one of the things I said, you do, you know, you are a prime minister and you do it like as if it is professional, you know, you're just like a professional. And she said, no, it's me. I'm not doing anything. It's just me all the time, you know. So I think she was really very, very sweet person.
Many of the papers this morning have quotations from her, not long before she died, where she was talking about the possibility of death and if her blood was spilt, the effect it would have on India. Did she talk about that to you?
Yes, you see, I had told her that I felt the security was too relaxed. And actually, there was no security through the trip whatsoever. She was with the people, among the people. Even on the helicopter, her private helicopter, just at the very end of the trip, I noticed a person, you know, who was sitting at the very end, and I asked who he was. And somebody said, this is security. I hadn't felt him all through, you know, all through the trip for 2 days. And, you know, she went to different places. She was with the jeep, you know, she had no security whatsoever. So she said to me that I feel I've done all I wanted in my life. And I did it with all honesty and with all the goodness in it, you know. And she felt that she didn't believe in destiny, because I said, does that mean you believe in destiny? And she said, no, it's just that when it's going to come, it's going to come, you know, and I'm not afraid of this. I lived all my life in danger since I was a child.
She almost anticipated this, you think? Didn't believe in destiny, but yet half a mind?
I don't think so. She believed so much in the people of India. She was talking to me about the future, because I said, the future of India seems to be a little bit, you know, with these troubles in the Punjab and everywhere else. But she seemed to have a lot of faith in the Indian people, and she...
I might just ask you very, very quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of militant Sikhs in London have been celebrating her death. Was she anti-Sikh? I mean, after the storming of the temple, she acquired this image. Did you perceive any of this?
I felt Mrs. Gandhi was the type of woman who was anti-nobody. She was with everybody. She loved everybody who was in India. She treated them all equally well, I think.
Baria, thank you very much indeed.
How best to cover the ground war, we look at how the Arab press is reacting. The challenge for them is not just how to cover the war, but how best to do it from a foreign country, Britain. As London has developed as a business base for much of the Arab world, so it has become a cultural and communications centre. The Arab press, numbering around 30 daily and weekly titles, reflects the spectrum of political opinions in the Middle East. One of the most influential papers is Al-Quds, a pro-Palestinian daily. Banned in the Gulf, it's managed to increase circulation sixfold since the invasion of Kuwait to around 65,000. Editorially, it's opposed to Allied military action.
We are not a revolutionary newspaper, actually. We are objective in a way. We respect the news as it is. But in our editorial, it is completely different. We are advocating for the full implementation of UN Security Council decisions which call the Israeli to withdraw from West Bank and Gaza Strip and other Arab territories.
At the other end of the political spectrum, Ashaq al-Awsat was established with Saudi money 12 years ago. Satellite technology allows it to be printed in 10 cities around the world. Circulation has doubled since August to 200,000 copies daily. It takes the opposite view to Al-Quds.
I think there is no comparison in terms of the editorial policy. Our paper is established by a Saudi business group. And we are proud that being, a Saudi established paper. But it's not necessary, this is not necessary to reflect the Saudi government views in our editorial.
The Arab language press is primarily aimed at Arabs living in the Middle East and North Africa. Yet for both papers, London remains the best base.
All the problem in the Middle East actually started, in a way or another during the British mandate. So here is a very good source of information, and it's a very influential capital. Other things, we enjoy the freedom of expression in this country.
The access for information in here that they can't be found in any part of the Arab world. The journalism community in London that helps a lot in getting a complete story and do the necessary contacts with the sources.
The start of the land war brings the problems of interpreting Arab affairs from Britain into even sharper focus. For Al-Quds, it sets their editorial line firmly against British policy.
I think this ground war is a setback for our newspaper political line, because we were advocating from the beginning, for a peaceful settlement. We were calling for a ceasefire and a negotiation between all parties to find solution for all problems in the Middle East. But unfortunately, we are witnessing such bloody war now, and I am not extremely optimistic.
We are covering the war. We have a team of correspondents in the front lines there. And we think that Saddam wanted it this way, and he deserves what's going on.
Well, joining me now is Baria Alamuddin, a Middle East journalist. Baria, let's first start off, first of all, by looking at what the papers actually said this weekend in the Arab world. First of all, the two papers that we saw featured in the film. This one?
Yes, it's called Al-Sharq Al-Awsat. It's published in London, as you were saying, and it leads on the story of the initial success of the ground battles and the air battles in the Gulf. And then second, there's Al-Quds, which leads on a story saying that they have actually managed to demolish one whole American unit near the city of Kuwait. Third, it's Al-Ahram, which is an Egyptian newspaper. It's one of the oldest Arab newspapers and one of the most widely distributed. And it also needs on the successes of the Allied forces and on the fact that they have managed to, so many have managed to surrender, the Iraqi forces, so many of them. And then you have Al-Hayat, which is published again in London and distributed in many of the other Arab and world capitals, and it also leads on how they are how they are encircling the Iraqi forces near Kuwait.
Right, well, quite different, varying views there. What effect has the virtual news blackout had on the Arab papers this weekend?
Well, as you can imagine, with no military briefing and no sources from military personalities, we have lots of speculations in the Arab press, and it has affected them in the sense that there are no confirmed reports. But probably you will get better coverage nowadays from Arab press than English press, because the war is taking place in an Arab country.
All right. Now, there's increased circulation. There's also been new papers launched, this one in particular. What's different about this paper?
Well, South Al-Kuwait is a new newspaper, and it talks about mainly the Kuwaiti problems. And I would imagine we'll be getting very good coverage during the war, because these people have a lot of access from Kuwait, in the sense that they probably have calls, faxes, and eyewitnesses coming from Kuwait. As you can imagine, this is a Kuwaiti newspaper, and they will be very much interested in covering the war very intensely, I would imagine.
And briefly, when the war is over, what do you predict will happen to the circulation of these papers?
Oh, I would imagine it should drop after the war, after a while, because now you have people buying 2-3 newspapers, while before they would probably buy 1 or 2, but not for a while, I would suppose.
Okay, Baria, thank you very much for joining us. That's all from me. I'll be back tomorrow. Dermot's back with the world news at 9 o'clock, but first over to Andy Stegel with the international sport. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, Joanna. Good morning, everyone. Basketball, and 2 of the NBA's traditional powers, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Detroit Pistons, squared off at the Palace in Michigan last night, and they produced a match